have, a common responsibility and collective action regarding collective challenges. One of these challenges I just mentioned, the issue of, for example, malaria, the commitment to fight inequality and to eradicate poverty around the world. These are agendas that bring us together, and the United Nations should be fit for purpose, and that's what we're trying to aim for.
Gabriela, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I'm Gabriela Sotomayor, Mexican journalist. I have two questions, if may I.
Gabriela, just 1 second.
Do we have?
Yeah, we have. Just 1 second, sorry. You just have to go there, in this one. Yeah. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, you mentioned migration, and well, my question is, there is a caravan of migrants, as you may know, crossing Mexico border, heading to the United States. So what do you expect from the governments of Mexico? Mexico is leading the Global Compact of Migration. And what do you expect of the United States? The government of Trump himself, he threatened to militarize the border with Mexico. So what the General Assembly can do to prevent a tragedy when they come to the border? I mean, all these 7,000 people coming after the detention and separation of families and children. What can you do?
Well, I think that this very complex situation that we are facing, it's a situation that different countries face for different reasons. I think that the history of humanity is about the history of migration. I think at one point or another, different groups migrate for different reasons. What is important is that the response from the United Nations has been to establish a common umbrella, a framework to guarantee an orderly and regular migration. And this will imply that leaders around the world get together in Marrakesh and agree on the Global Compact of Migration. What we need is precisely to have common rules and common understanding regarding people on the move. And we have situations like the one you just described that brings the issue to the headlines of the media, but these issues are happening everywhere and all the time. The response of the United Nations needs to be, a predictable one, a multilateral one, and to provide everybody with clarity on why, how, and what, and how to proceed in situations that different countries in different parts of the world have to face. We call for the treatment of people that are migrating, not only in this particular case, but in every case, to ensure that they are treated with full respect of their rights, their dignity, and their well-being.
Miriam.
Anadolu Agency, Bayram Altu. As you know, the UN Security Council has been criticized widely for failing to respond to global crisis, as each Security Council members has veto power and can vote important resolutions. Beginning of the month, you gave an interview to Anadolu Agency in New York. You said the UN Security Council reform process depends on the political will of member states. So do you think that UN Security Council system will change in the near future? Are you optimistic on that? So can you see a strong political will from the member states to change the system of Security Council? Thank you.
Well, first of all, we have to start by saying that Security Council reform, it's been going on for at least 25 years, that 10 years ago, there was a mandate to start an IGN, intergovernmental negotiation process that started 10 years ago. And the process has been, developing and ongoing. This is very much, and I repeat that, a member state-driven process. And there are so many different positions and views regarding Security Council reform. What is the role of the President of the General Assembly is to make sure that all the views are reflected, that the process continues. I will appoint 2 co-facilitators to lead the consultations. And I really hope that at a point in time, member states will be prepared to bring the issue forward. So my role is to ensure that the process continues, to provide the leadership, and to create the conditions to continue with the IGN work.
Brice.
Thank you, Madam President, for this briefing. I'm interested in my name is Bridge Kindaria, and I'm a columnist for media in the UK, India, and the US, economic media mainly. So I'm thinking of your comments about multilateralism, and in light of what President Trump said at the Assembly, I find that most of the things you are saying are similar to what has been said before, general arguments in favor of working together, etc. And what I'd like to know is whether you see some very significant watermark here this time, that it is a different future that we are looking forward to regarding multilateralism as a tool for cooperation and solving problems. I just wanted your off-the-cuff view about this. Does the kind of multilateralism we've had in the past and so far still have a future?
Well, I thank you for your question, because sometimes humans, we are like that. We prefer to highlight the weaknesses and the failures more than the gains and the achievements. We have developed perhaps the most powerful collective roadmap, which are the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. When you look at the efforts that are being made at the national level, at the country level, it is so important and meaningful. The only way to deliver on Agenda 2030 is through collaboration, cooperation, and collective action. And the second way, it's to make sure that this political, bureaucratic effort translates into improving the livelihoods and the quality of life of people at the grassroots level. And here I give you an example. During my recent visit to India, there was political momentum to agree on the 2030 agenda. Member states, governments, they take the agenda and they transform it into even national law, public policy, they take decisions, but how that it permeates into the local, very local level. In India, I met with several civil society organizations. They're using the 2030 agenda and the SDGs to work in shanty towns, to work with street children, and to improve their quality of life using the very strong weapon of the Sustainable Development Goals. That's, for example, a case of a success story. When you look at the treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons, that resolution was cooked here in Geneva. And I think it was a cornerstone. It was really a landmark in the disarmament agenda. So here again, a success story. Of course, we need more signatures, more ratifications to bring the treaty to life. But something could be done. When you look at what is happening in the inter-Korean dialogues and the efforts for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, when you look at the Horn of Africa, and the peace agreements between Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti. This is a life changer for the people living in these countries. So these issues, perhaps they make, one perhaps small headline, but then they disappear, and what comes in are the issues that are perhaps more challenging, more difficult, more cruel, and we have a lot of conflicts around the world that really are cruel and unjust, especially for civilians, for the ones who suffer, the innocent people, girls and women that are abused in conflict. I mean, so we have all these gray, very sad stories, but we have yet, very successful stories that we need to showcase perhaps more and translate, I insist, translate the work of the United Nations to, a narrative that would be understood and owned by public opinion.
May I follow up?
Yes, go ahead.
So from what I gather from your comments, you are saying that there are several nice success stories, so perhaps the media and others should give more credence to those and spread them more widely in language that makes it more understandable, that the system, the UN-based system, is useful to the people on the street. My question is, so isn't that the, like Albert Einstein's famous thing, doing the same thing again and coming to the same problem at the end? Meaning, right now there's a challenge from a leading power which is saying very openly and clearly, without mincing words, that this kind of multilateralism that everybody else wants, we don't want to support it anymore. Maybe this regime this administration is there for a few years or not, we don't know. But do you consider that there is justification in seeking some fundamental rethinking about how multilateralism works compared to how it has worked in the past? I'd just like a few words on that thought, which is not necessarily to do with the UNGA's work, but since you're a distinguished diplomat and an international, not civil servant, but international operator, it would be interesting to know.
Well, basically you say this perhaps is not that related to the GA work, and I would say it is totally related to the GA work, because the General Assembly is the Parliament of Humanity, is the norm-setting body for international law. It is extremely important. So our capacity to deliver, our capacity to respond, our capacity to include the voices of civil society is going to make the difference. That's why I am putting so much impetus and political energy into the revitalization of the General Assembly, of the work of the General Assembly. And I think it is relevant. How to do things better is how to deliver better. You know that every year the General Assembly adopts and passes around 600 resolutions per year. Are we aware of what are these 600 resolutions? What is the content? What is the monitoring of implementation? We are facing an implementation challenge there. So if we improve how we deliver in the Parliament of Humanity, this is going to really make the difference in the way the multilateral system delivers. So it is very important. That's why I'm putting so much emphasis on that. How to do things differently. There is a very important issue that is happening right now, which is the reform of the United Nations. And I think it deserves more press. 3 pillars that were proposed by the Secretary General. We are in full support of his reform agenda. On the peace and security pillar, the management pillar, and on the development system pillar. If we look carefully about the 3 pillars of the reform, you will see that there is a common denominator, which is to impact and transform the working methods of the organization. All these efforts that are done sometimes in-house are going to impact positively the way we deliver and the way multilateralism is fit for purpose in a world that, I agree with you,